Hey there folks, Luger21 here. This is not going to be a normal pick and gut style video. What this is actually going to be is more of a video explaining how to pick a specific lock or type of lock. I have in front of me, you can probably already tell, this is a Kwikset SmartKey. This is actually the Gen 1 SmartKey, so this is not going to be some really cool thing talking about how to pick the Gen 2. Although, after watching Chris Ains's picking video of the Gen 3, technically, it looks like the picking process, once you get to a certain point, is very, very similar between Gen 1 and Gen 2. You just have to deal with the different sidebar mechanics in Gen 2. So why am I doing this video? Well, when I very first started trying to pick a smart key lock, I discovered pretty quickly that picking this lock is not like picking a normal pin tumbler lock. So what this lock has is it does have pins in it, but those pins actually interface with wafers. And then those wafers in turn interface with a sidebar. And ultimately what you're looking to do is those wafers have several gates in them, several false gates and a true gate. And what you're looking to do is line up all of the true gates with the sidebar, at which point the sidebar can retract and the core will turn. But that means that this doesn't really pick like a normal pin tumbler lock. You can't just put some tension on it and lift pins to shear. And anybody who's spent any time picking knows that that's even oversimplifying pin tumbler. But in this case, because of the way that those false gates work and the way that the sidebar works, it's kind of almost like a sawtooth in there that really catches on that sidebar. And so if you put tension on this, you might be able to get a couple of pins to lift, but most of the pins will be just absolutely bound tight. You won't be able to move them. So how do you pick this lock? Well, the first thing to be aware of is this lock, this core, is super sloppy. Look at how much turn you can get out of that core. And so what you're actually going to be doing is you tension the core. I just got a low battery warning, so hopefully I can get this done before the battery dies on me. You tension the core, and you find the pin that you want to work on next, and then you actually slowly back off on the core manually. You need to actually kind of manually turn the core backwards as you lift the pin, and then when you actually get the, and then you retension, every notch that you push it up, you want to retension until you feel the core move slightly further than it was. So when you're normally tensioning it, it'll only tension just so far, and then once it hits the true gate, it'll actually tension slightly further. So let's see if I can get this real quick. My hand might be a little too in the way for you to be able to see what's going on. One nice thing about this lock is it's hard to overset, but it's not impossible to overset. So it's harder but not impossible to overset. You know what? I don't like the way that this is actually in here. So I am going to just flip it around. It'll just give me a chance to kind of hold the core slightly better. Get that in there. Let's go. Normally I actually have this in here the other way. I don't know why I ended up with it flipped around. Alright, so let's kind of try that again. Part of the reason is that way I can kind of use my hand to kind of hold this slightly more steady. So let's try it again. Back tension slightly, and then re-forward tension. Not used to doing this with it on a table. I actually normally hold this up in the air. Makes it a little easier for me. So I'm going to try and get my hand out of the way so you can see what's going on, but it might be hard for me to do that. And as you're doing this, you are rather likely to drop those wafers as you're going through, and that's okay to drop wafers that are already picked, because what you're going to do is just kind of start at one end, move towards the other end, picking the wafers, and then kind of as you move along, just go back to the beginning, repick any that have fallen, and then just keep kind of moving your way through. Picking this is almost a little bit more like doing a combination lock than it is picking a normal lock, in that all that you're looking for is to move wafers into the correct position. Yeah, you guys can't see this at all. I'm kind of looking through the camera now. I got my hand so much in the way here. Sorry about that. Maybe I can reposition this a little bit. Oh, that's a little bit better. And while it is hard to overset this lock, it is not impossible to overset a pin, so be aware of that it is possible to overset pins. But if you do that, it's actually not too hard to work around that. All that you need to do to work around an overset pin, I might end up getting a chance to show you here in a second. Maybe. Just trying to feel where I'm at here. One thing that I wish, I'm using a 50 thousandths pry bar, which is pretty big, but this keyway is actually so large. It's the size of a full-size Kwikset KW1 keyway. It's so large that it's hard to get proper tension out of even this 50 thousandths pry bar with needing to rock that keyway back and forth so much. Yeah, I guess I overset somewhere. So all you need to do if you overset is very carefully, slowly but surely, back off tension until you hear a click. And you only want to back off tension until you hear a click, because usually, haha, there we go. That one click is the one that you've overset. So I literally had overset one pin in there, had the rest of them all at the shear line, and all I had to do was back off until I got to that point. One thing that you can do when you're very first trying to learn how to pick this lock is you do not actually need this whole outer shell for picking this lock. If you take off this first pin, you'll see that there's actually two circlips. There was one right here and then the one in the center. This middle part will come out, and this is actually all that you need to do practice picking this lock. You can stick this in a clamp, and then as you're picking it, let's see if I can get this on camera here. As you are manipulating those wafers like that, you can see them move up and down, and what you're looking for is for them all to kind of line up. There you'll see a little outcropping in here. You want them to all just line up with that little outcropping that's inside of there, and then it'll pick and you can turn it. That sounds easier than it is, because even with being able to see what I was doing the very first time that I picked this, it probably took me about 45 minutes. But it's really good for learning what it is you're feeling for. Being able to kind of see what you're doing. It's almost like looking at an acrylic lock or a cutaway or something like that. So there you go. That is how you pick a SmartKey Gen 1 lock. Good night, everyone.